I want to show you something new in Photoshop CC as of January 2014 called perspective warping. This is a menu item, if I go under edit here, perspective warp, that allows you to take an object or multiple objects and apply them to a different perspective. So it's not just taking an entire image and applying perspective to it. You can do it for a lot of different things. What we're going to do is we're going to take this train and make it look like you see here. This is the final. The original train looks like that. Now, there's a couple things here. We're not going to be able to take something that's in total profile, like from the side, a side shot, and put it into perspective looking like this, because you won't have any of the front unless you want to make that up, okay? So we're going to get something that's at least similar, or at least close to what we want, okay? Now what I'm going to do is we're going to start again here. So I'm going to go select what I want and just copy it. You can get it over there however you want. Let me hide this one. And I'm just going to paste it in there. There it is. Now you can see it's definitely off. So we need to make it, or put it into perspective rather. So if you take the object you've got in, we're doing a little bit of compositing here. First thing we're going to do is we're going to turn that into a smart object. So I go under layer here, you'll see smart object, convert to smart object. That makes it so that the perspective we do is going to be able to, we can edit it, we can undo it, we can add a mask. And then I'm just going to do a quick scale here. I'm hitting Command T or Control T to do a transform, and just doing a little bit of transform here. Now you may not have to do this, but now I'm also holding down a couple keys there. It's Shift Option on Mac, I have to look at my keyboard, or Shift Alt, I believe, on Windows, just to resize or scale from the center. All right, I hit return. That looks pretty good, not too bad. Now I'm going to kind of roughly put it where I want it. I stick one part of the image on the perspective that I want, so I put it right about there, you can see. Now what we're going to do is with the layer selected, you can see it's a smart object. Come up to edit and choose perspective warp. Now you don't have to have, this layer doesn't have to be transparent. You could take an entire image and do this to it, as long as you put the correct planes out there. Now, typically what we're going to do is we're going to define a couple planes. It's just going to kind of wrap around. So typically in perspective, we have, a lot of times we'll have a two-point perspective, let's say. So this little dialog just telling you kind of how to do it. So let me close that. So we're going to draw. So I'm going to start where the corner of the object is, where you think the perspective is going to begin. And I'm going to click and drag. And you're going to see that it's going to create a little grid here. Now, the idea is you just make it about as long as your object, let's say. And you want to grab then these pins, these are all separate, and you want to make sure that they are parallel to the lines of the object. Not what you want them to be, but what it is currently. So you can see right here, I'm just trying to kind of put it parallel. I'm not going to be perfect here. And don't worry about making these perfectly vertical. We can do that easily. Next thing I'm going to do is put another one. I'll just put one over here. So I'll just drag out. Now notice as I get close to the other one, it's going to snap, which is kind of cool. Watch this. It's going to snap the points. Nice. All right. So then I go in and say, okay, let's follow the perspective of the object. It's a little rough on the train. Kind of not sure what it is, but that's all right. Let me go a little bit wider. That's fine. Okay, this looks okay. Next thing we're going to do is come up here. You're going to see there's a couple options to work with. Click on Warp, and this says, okay, once we've got the perspective plane set, click on Warp, then you can go out and start to kind of drag and change the perspective of this thing. So you're going to see if I grab a pin, I could start to reconfigure it here. Now I'm going to undo, Command Z, Control Z, you can do that. And you'll see that we have a couple options. We have, let's make the verticals basically straight vertical, or straighten the horizontals, or straighten both. Now if you do straighten both, good luck. Okay, it's going to look kind of dumb. So I'm going to do, let's straighten the verticals here. And it'll make them all nice and straight. Then what we can do is we can start dragging. Now unfortunately, it's going to let you drag one pin at a time. So what we're going to do is we're going to select two pins at once so we can drag one of the entire, two pins essentially. So if you come to one of these lines, these vertical lines, and if you shift click on it, you're going to see it's going to basically make them, it's going to make this one perfectly vertical if it wasn't. And then you can come to one of the little pins and drag it and start to change the perspective. You'll see. So I'm going to say, okay, let's look at it like that. Something like that. Now we're trying to follow the perspective lines here visually. And then I'm going to grab the bottom one and see if I can't make it to where it follows on the rails or sits on the rails. There we go. Make sure that they're all vertical. You can do it a couple ways. And then we can kind of adjust the, let's say, the front of the train if we want to. Bring it in just a bit. Make it a little bit shorter if we need to. And then make sure that they're all vertical. A couple ways to do that. I could adjust the nose of the train a little bit better here. Let me drag that out just a bit. But there we go. Once I hit return, or if you click accept, you can also see right here that we have an remove warp. You can totally remove it. I'll accept it or cancel it. You can hit return too, and it does it. And you'll see over here in the layers panel that this is a smart filter. So you can turn the warp on and off. You can also double click on it, and it'll allow you to go in and start to rechange or re-edit. Now, if you decide that the actual planes here are wrong, they're not quite on the object, you didn't get it right, you can always go back to layout and try it again. Now, unfortunately, you're going to see here that it's going to go in and say, okay, let's rewarp it. Once I hit warp, it'll automatically do it again. I can then say, good, we're done. And there you go. Now you can start to add different shading and different things you need, but that's working with the perspective warp in Photoshop.